Welcome back to the funding table. We're so excited to have you guys back.
And today we got a pretty fun episode for you. Check this out.
Part one of how I purchased a home and then had to surrender that home a year later. So it was 2022. I was moving home. I was currently living in Las Vegas, my husband and I, and we decided to move home to help family. We're thinking like, we're moving home, let's just buy. We're going to be here for a couple of years, so let's just like buy a house. I had a cousin who was a real estate agent, and so I was like, oh, like this is perfect. I'm going to go through my cousin because they're going to take care of me. Like they're going to make sure that nothing, bad happens. I'm a first time home buyer. I don't really know a lot. They're going to take care of me. That didn't happen. So they toured the house. The real estate agent and my mother-in-law toured the house, and they think it's great, it's cute, it's a good little first-time home buyer house, and we get an inspection. The inspection was lengthy, like it was really long, and I was like, ooh, like, is this normal, like, for it to be this long? I don't know. Something was off, like, in my spirit. I was like, I don't know about this anymore, actually. So
we're gonna finish the rest of the video, but like, she said something on here that was a little interesting. She said that her inspection report was really lengthy, and she felt that in her spirit that there was something off. You guys, if you don't have peace about it, don't move forward with it. That's one thing that you need to pay attention to. Let's continue to watch.
So I asked the real estate agent, like, what do you think? Like, this seems like a lot of things to get fixed. And obviously we knew we were buying an older home. We knew we were going to have to get like AC and things like that. But like the list was really long. And she was just basically like, no, like this is great. Like, you love it. Like just get the house. Like it's a fixer-upper. You can fix it.
Pause.
Sounds like a salesman.
And then a fixer-upper is just a word, guys. It's not until you actually get the cost of how much things are gonna, be to renovate the house, because a fixer-upper is a cute word, and it's like, oh, it's so cute, and you think you've watched HGTV 1,000 times, and you think it's gonna be beautiful and everything like that.
Not that easy.
But honey, it is costly. It costs money, all right? So if you don't have the funds to go over budget by 30, 20%, then this fixer-upper shouldn't be for you.
Unless it's truly calculated in. If you're a first-time home buyer, you might not have calculated that in.
Right.
So I trust her. We move forward in the process. We ended up getting the keys in early August, and we get the keys. Everything's going great. We're really excited. We're like celebrating.
She trusted her.
And so we ended up painting the house. We didn't move in immediately. We wanted to like paint the walls and stuff like that. So we ended up painting the walls. We're painting, and all of a sudden, it sounds like there is a storm happening on the first floor. We walk downstairs, and the entire back of the house is raining. Like it's raining inside of the home. So we contact the real estate agent. We're like, hey, there's a hole in the roof. Why wouldn't we have known about this? And she's like, oh, like, oopsie, like you didn't know they hit that, so you own the home, so just gotta get it fixed. So we're like, okay, whatever, that's irritating. We get it fixed. We get a temporary fix.
There will be red flags.
That is insane.
To, whatever, cover the hole or whatever. And because the winter was coming, and they were like, oh, like, let's just do something temporary until the springtime, and like, we'll do something permanent, and you'll have to like get the whole roof redone, basically. Like, that's cheap, but whatever. So we're just going with it. We're like, okay, well, it's just the first time home buyer was, right? This is the first time home buyer was. We could do this. We finally move in. Everything's great again. Everything's great again. And then we get a letter from the city that we have a correction notice. And then we have to get a list of things fixed before this date, before we start getting fined.
What?
We're like, what the
Dang.
That's crazy.
Man. Horror story.
Yeah, I've never heard a horror story like this. This is pretty insane.
Excuse me? So we contact the city, and the city's like, oh, they should have told you that. Like, they had an open correction notice. The previous owners had a correction notice, and they were supposed to disclose that to you, and you were supposed to accept terms. I'm calling you, so that didn't happen. So what's next? Come to part two. Part one.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even want to see what's in part two. Dang.
Yeah, I don't. Pobrecita. I mean, she started it off saying that she had to surrender the house.
That's crazy.
Like I said, guys, if you don't have peace about the situation, don't move forward, because unfortunately there's things like this that can happen. I'm not saying that it'll always be that way, but for sure, listen to your instinct, listen to your gut. If you feel like there's some kind of red flags, pay attention to those red flags, guys.
It's important who you work with. It's important to get that property inspection. And man, sellers, make all the necessary disclosures. Realtors, listing agent, selling agent, buying agent.
Yes.
Like, make all the necessary disclosures when transferring over ownership, because man, these things can just come back and they can ruin people's lives. I mean, she gave up the house.
Yeah. Yes. I was reading through the comments on that specific TikTok video, and a lot of people were encouraging her to sue. And she says that the inspector actually had them sign something that says that like they can't sue the inspector, which is wild. If you get put in that position, don't sign that, guys. I mean, an inspector that you pay, a third-party inspector that you pay for, should go out, inspect the property, give you a full detailed report. And if they miss something, like I get maybe you miss like a little baseboard or something.
Things could happen, yeah.
But like a roof that has a hole in it, I mean, how can you miss that? You know, like how can you miss that, guys?
Part 4 of how we almost ended up homeless because our buyer got approved for a loan and didn't have enough money to close on this loan. So it is officially August the 5th. It's early in the morning and something happens. I don't know what it is. The day before your loan or 2 days before your loan, like re-verification again of employment, of funds. You have to like bring
valid.
like all the monies. I don't know. Something happens like that those 2 days before. And I get a call that the buyer does not have enough money to close on the loan. That supposedly, it turns out that after the nude CD was printed, it ended up being short somehow about $8,000. And at that point, I am like, what the flying bleep? I'm in tears because it just seems like this is seeming like it's not going to happen. 10K of my own money is pending on the line. At this point, my husband says, we are paying for that ish. We are paying for it. We're not walking. We've waited long enough. I don't care how much it is. We're paying for it. So my realtor calls back and says, I'm willing to take one more hit to help you out. It's a small percentage, but it'll be about $1,500. Let me call the other side, the other realtor, and see if he's willing to please come and help because we need to close tomorrow. This has gone long enough. He calls him.
Valid.
And gets his ass reamed out, cussed out, and shady ass agent is in Jamaica having a good time on vacation and says no.
Couple things right away.
Yeah.
There's definitely, these are the sellers trying to sell their property and the buyers low on funds. I can tell you what, man, I have some suspicions as to the type of lender that buyer's working with. I see it often where a client thinks they're closing with $3,000, but really they're closing with 10 or 11 and they don't find out till a day or two before closing. I see that so often, and that comes from, predatory lending. That comes from lenders and loan officers purposefully being deceptive in many cases to keep a client strung along for the next month or so, kind of keep them locked in and keep them clueless, so to speak, and then they get hit with the real numbers. I see that way too often in our industry. That might not 100% be what's happening to this seller's buyer, but there's a good possibility that it is. That's why the sellers, listing agents, it's important what approval letter you accept.
100%.
That's so huge.
100%.
Hey, but perks of being in a buyer's market, maybe.
Why won't these people take a cut of their commission and help my client? They have money. We do not have money. At this time, we were both working and doing everything we could to try.
And like, even if the sellers have the money to come up with the difference to help the buyer out, doesn't necessarily mean that they should or they have to. You as a buyer should have the funds. And I feel bad because maybe in this instance, like we're saying, that maybe the lender shot the numbers and maybe the client or the buyer just didn't know that they were supposed to bring that much funds. It sucks. But the seller doesn't have to give you any of their equity. The seller doesn't have to help you out with closing costs,
Luckily, in this case, they did.
Yeah, luckily in this case, they are willing to and they want to because they want to sell their house. But I mean, for someone to just automatically have that, like, oh, they should, that entitlement, a seller doesn't have to give
That
you it.
rarely happens.
Yeah, a seller doesn't have to help you out with closing costs, guys.
Let's finish this off.
Yeah.
To get out of the area that we lived in. The agent says to mine, you need to figure this out. You and your people have money, figure out who the closing costs are going to be handled between, but keep me out of it.
That's
Let
wild.
me know if you guys are walking, because at this point, if you guys aren't paying for the closing cost, we're walking. Okay, we're walking. So you can imagine that I'm sitting the day before our closing, literally in tears, because I just cannot believe that at this point, someone is willing to be so effing ruthless.
Dang.
That's crazy.
I'd be like, bye.
Yeah, me too.
Let the contract expire. All the
like,
money
bye.
that you've spent, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it back on the market and help the next buyer.
I have the sneaky suspicion about this scenario that the buyer's lender's involved in some way.
Yeah, the buyer's lender's involved and the realtor knows, because for the realtor to be that cocky and be like, oh, we're walking?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little...
That's tough, man.
Yeah, that's wild.
Make sure your lender's giving you accurate numbers. I see it so often. If you're questioning it, run it by us. Run it by somebody else. Get a second opinion. I see it so often where I see, no, you're not closing with 3,000. You're actually closing with 10. But I can tell. And I'm not even the lender on the transaction.
A lot of people cannot make progress financially because they are house poor and they probably don't even know it. Being house poor is when you own a home that you cannot afford. What does that look like? When you have a payment that is a very big percentage of what you make monthly and all you can afford basically is to pay the mortgage. By the time you cover all your house expenses, you are basically left with nothing. I think it's important to talk about this because people are under the impression that as long as you own a home, you're winning. And that is not the case. If you are owning a home, stress out because by the end of the month, you have nothing left. You cannot afford that. That is what we call you bought too much house. With your monthly income, you should be able to pay your mortgage, set money aside, invest, basically still have a life, right? And not feel like you're drowning and not feel like you can't breathe. The biggest, smartest way to do this is waiting to buy a house when you are ready. Not when the pressure is, when are you going to buy a house? When are you going to buy a house? Oh, everyone buys a house when they get married. Why aren't you? No, you need to buy a house when you're ready. Doing this when you're ready looks like this. You should be debt free. You should have an emergency fund. And you should aim to have a really good down payment. 5, 10, 15, 20% down. And that will give you margin. That will give you breathing room. That will make sure you are doing this the right way. So don't let anyone pressure you into this. Buying a house is the biggest expense you're ever going to make, at least for most of us. Make sure you're doing this the right way. A lot of
She's preaching.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I see that often too. And we kind of protect against those things. So like when we talk or when we work with a client, we're like, hey, you're approved for this much, but like, what's a comfortable monthly payment budget for you so that, you know, you still have the ability to live a life. Just because you're approved for $300,000, in order for you to have a healthy budget and live and be comfortable, you should probably buy 230, 240. And like she said, have that margin, have that ability to live. Some of the times, you know, that can happen to you by, you know, an escrow shortage or, you know, under quoting your numbers at your loan closing. And then next year your payments are shooting up because, you know, you were short on taxes or your insurance skyrocketed or, you know, your house appraised for more than next year taxable wise. And you just weren't prepared for the true monthly payment of that house. And, you know, you were kind of sold into buying more house than you could actually afford. That happens often too.
If you feel that if your monthly payment increasing by $100 or $200 is just too much and you can't afford the mortgage payment anymore, then you should probably look for something that's a little bit lower, because over the years, your insurance does go up, the taxes could go up a little bit. But if you feel like, man, if my mortgage payment goes up by $100 or $200, and if you feel like you can't afford it, then it's probably time to kind of have a strict budget to stick with.
Yeah, not to mention the type of lender that you're working with can make a huge difference to the monthly payment of that property. You know, that property, you know, with lender A, it might be $1,700 a month. With lender B, it might be $1,600 a month. And with lender C, it might be $1,500 a month. And the difference between that is the type of lender offering lower interest rates or higher interest rates. So the kind of lender that you're working with as well can make a huge difference as to the kind of monthly payment budget that you should be in or that you'll end up getting.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but the money that you saved for a house is the money that you will pay for the house, and it's okay. It's okay to use the money that you are saving to buy a house, to buy the house. Although the money's not going to be in your account anymore, it's going to be in your house. So I don't know who needs to hear that, but I needed to hear that. And I feel like that was like a conversation I was having with my fiance, and I was like, this is what I've been saving for, you know, for the past 3 years. So it's okay to spend the money that you saved to buy a house on the house.
Corazon, she's so graceful with this, but it's so true. It's so true.
If you got the funds to put it down, she's spot on. Put it down. Just because it's not in the bank, like she said, it's in the property. It's in the equity of the property, and you know it's sitting there quietly for you, and it's growing.
Yes, and I know that when you see $25,000 in your bank account because you've been saving it for a few years for the purchase of your home, you're like, whoa. My bank account looks pretty, right? And then you're like, dang, I have to give all of this for a down payment, or I have to use some of these funds for the down payment and to cover closing cost. And it might be a little disheartening because you're like, oh, it took me years to save this up and you have to use it. But that was the reason why that you saved those funds up, so that you can put it as a down payment and so that you can get the best type of financing that you can get when you give your down payment. And I love that she was just so graceful about that, because it's true. I know that especially us women, we look at the account and we're like, oh, I don't know if I want to use that, right? But you literally saved up these years.
And using those funds to actually get into a property and start building that equity is a lot better than continuing to rent if you're renting, because that money that you're putting towards rent every month, you're never going to see it again. It's 100% interest. It's not going anywhere towards benefiting you or benefiting your pocket, but that monthly mortgage payment that you're making, you know, that's going towards lowering the balance and increasing the equity in the property. So if those savings can get you into the property, that just begins to set you up on the fast track for equity and saving even more and building wealth in the future. With this property, who knows, maybe the second, the third, the fourth. So if you're saving for property, you know, use it for property. And if you need help on how to strategize the best way to use some of those funds, speak with a professional.
Yes. We hope that you found this episode helpful. Let us know if you guys want us to cover any kind of topics. The next few episodes we're excited for. We're going to be talking about things that are coming to a neighborhood near you. And then we're also going to be having a special guest soon. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure that you subscribe, like this video, share this with your family and friends. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Stay tuned.